I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Gordon Downs. He is the co-founder and CEO at NYSHEX. Gordon, wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Judy, for having me.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking, but before we get started, quick note to viewers, this interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. All right, so Gordon, tell me about NYSHEX.
Okay, so we're a technology platform. We basically provide digital infrastructure for the global container shipping industry, and a little bit of information about the industry. It's 200 million containers that move around the world every year, and we call them TEUs, or 20-foot equivalent units, roughly equal to a container. And it's a very complicated industry. There are hundreds of thousands of contracts that get signed every year, and keeping track of what was agreed to versus what actually happened in an international supply chain when there's so many different links is extraordinarily complicated. So we provide the technology that helps keep track of the contracts and then keeps track of all the underlying events that take place. We do this through what we call a shared system of record. So the participants in the contract, they can see the same set of data. We provide workflows on top of that, and so it creates efficiencies, allows for greater collaboration, and then finally it's fully integrated. So it plugs into existing systems, TMS systems, etc., to make the processing that much more easier. So that's essentially what we do as NYSHEX.
Okay, all right, so tell me, who's using your technology and what are some of the problems you're solving for?
Okay, so I have to explain this. There are three different types of users. So on one hand, we've got the carriers. These are the big companies that own ships and containers, companies like MSC and Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd, CMA, etc. We also have importers, exporters, companies like Walmart or the Andersons, Cargo, etc., that are loading cargo on the ships. And then we have a third category called NVOCC, stand for Non-Vessel Operating Common Carrier. And NVOCCs are roughly brokers. They buy and sell space on container ships. So, first category, we have these carriers, and one of the big problems that a carrier has is they run these massive networks of ships and containers that are sailing all around the world. Essentially, it's a perishable product, because if the ship is going to set sail and there isn't enough cargo to load that on that vessel, the value of that space on the ship gets perished. And so what we provide through our technology is a better way for a carrier to optimize what they've sold on the contract, optimize for the demand, better utilize the asset, better service the customer at the end of the contract. On the importer-exporter side of things, we all heard about the supply chain bottlenecks and how damaging it was for the supply chains. Well, what we're providing is a mechanism where people can make these contracts, know with more certainty whether they're going to get loaded on their ships or not, and ultimately the tools to manage their supply chain risk to build more resilient supply chain. And then the third category, the NVOCCs as we call them, what we're really doing is helping them to be able to keep track of what they buy on the buy side and what they sell on the supply side, and of course these are always linked, and being able to attribute if there's a challenge on a supply side contract back all the way to the demand side contract, and then the tooling that's required to optimize the margin between the buy price and the sell price. And so different sets of problems for all the participants in the market, but essentially that's how we solve their problems.
Okay, and tell me, what does the future hold for NYSHEX?
Well, first off, we're going deeper.
Okay.
And so when we say going deeper, what we mean is we're getting deeper and deeper integrations. Just this last quarter, we announced a partnership with Hapag-Lloyd. We're providing a deep integration with their quality freight product, and we're doing more integration projects like that with our various members. We're also getting much more deeply involved in the financial ecosystem. So, for example, there's $400 billion worth of freight spend, and so we've got some partnerships with some major players in the space, and we're going to be rolling out these programs in the coming months. So, really excited to go deeper. We're also exploring potentially one of these days going across different modes of transportation. So, right now we're very much focused on ocean container shipping, but we do believe that the value of what we've created in the ocean shipping industry is potentially relevant in other modes of transportation as well.
All right, well, Gordon, wonderful to talk with you. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk.
Thank you for having me.